In 1932, Albert K. Epstein, a prominent scientist in Chicago, put this photograph in its cardboard mount into an envelope and addressed that envelope to the YIVO Institute for Jewish Research in Vilna, at the time in independent Poland. The institute had opened its doors several years earlier, and its mandate was to collect pieces of history for posterity. The photograph depicts a moment from a party he had thrown in his Chicago home in 1925. Here it says, "A Verweilung von Jüdischen Intelligenten in Haus von Albert Epstein, Chicago," and here's the date, December 1925. That translates as "a party of Jewish intellectuals in the house of Albert Epstein." And here is the information about his sending it in 1932. June 1932, it says presented to Jüdischen Wissenschaftlichen Institut, so the YIVO. Presumably Epstein thought of YIVO as the most appropriate home for the photo because of the company he hosted that night, actors from the Vilna troupe, among others. We have little access to what took place the rest of the evening, but we can imagine the photographer from Herman's studio, and here's the stamp, carrying the table out of the dining room to make room for his subjects, arranging the host and his guests, and then the sound and flash of the camera's bulb. In Yiddish, on the bottom here, Epstein provides the names of his guests. So the two women in these bejeweled headdresses are his daughters. One is Gertrude, he describes as a chemist, and Lena, an accountant. Epstein himself sits here, dressed in the traditional black cap and beard of a shtetl Jew. We do not know that much about the Vilna troupe's visit to Chicago in 1925, though we know it was there as part of an overseas visit that also included a run in New York City. The Vilna troupe, based in Poland, was a constellation of multiple companies with a shared experimental orientation and a desire to maintain high artistic standards on the Yiddish stage. They were active from 1915 to 1936. Epstein points out Leib Kadison. He's on the far left here, dressed as a clown and wearing a hat. Kadison was originally from Kovno, or Kaunas, where he painted sets for an amateur troupe before he became one of the founders of the Vilna troupe. He also directed and acted. In the front row here is the master printmaker Todros Geller. Geller was born in Ukraine and emigrated to Montreal before he settled in Chicago. In Chicago, he studied at the School of the Art Institute under George Bellows, a legendary artist and a key voice in the city's modernist movement. What Epstein's photo allows us to glimpse does not drop easily into any typical historical category of American Jewish life. This isn't, for instance, a picture of radical politics or radical assimilation or Zionism. From other sources, we know Epstein's engagement with Yiddish culture, evidenced here, was not to the exclusion of an active engagement with Zionist politics. Epstein published a book about Chaim Weizmann. Likewise, the artist Geller was both a Yiddishist and a Zionist, and both men, spend time in Palestine. The partygoers are gathered in Epstein's middle class or even upper middle class home. The host seems well integrated into American life. They project a sense of comfort and confidence. But they are also not typical of the American bourgeoisie. The women in the photo have higher degrees or are actors. And inside Epstein's picnic basket, over here, alongside a holy book or sefer, is a copy of Birth Control Review, the controversial periodical put out by birth control advocate Margaret Sanger, perhaps an ironic wink at the progressive politics of those in the gathering.